If quantum computing gets involved in AI, what are we looking at?
The chatbots that are a revolution in software, and then quantum computers, which are a revolution in hardware, when they get together, watch out. So we're talking about an extremely powerful alliance between software and hardware.
What if the oldest scrolls on Earth weren't just holy texts, but encrypted messages coded with math, DNA, and cosmic maps? From geometry that mirrors quantum physics to verses that rewrite the Bible itself, the Dead Sea Scrolls are revealing secrets no one saw coming.
Take a look at the manuscript. This is the real Isaiah scroll. It has 2,100 years, and you can read from it.
And when you hear what this scroll predicted about what's supposedly buried beneath the brick tiles of Achor, you'll understand why some people still haven't stopped digging. The quantum code hidden in ancient scrolls. What if the most advanced tech of our time wasn't just building the future, but decoding the past? For the first time ever, quantum artificial intelligence has been unleashed on one of the oldest sacred collections in existence, the Dead Sea Scrolls. But this isn't some cleaned-up translation or routine digital scan. What it's revealing is shaking the foundation of history, religion, and science at the same time. We're talking buried language, biological fingerprints, and mathematical codes embedded so deep, they behave more like software than scripture. That's right. Inside these fragile 2,000-year-old scrolls, there are layers no human has seen before. And all of it started with a breakthrough called quantum-enhanced hyperspectral imaging. Think of it like X-ray vision, but on another level, so powerful that even ultraviolet scans seem prehistoric next to it.
They found a library with at least 1,800 ancient scrolls with texts in Greek and Latin.
And once they aimed that tech at the scrolls, a second text lit up. Not a blur, a full temporal layer, a palimpsest, and this one dated back to the 6th century BCE. That's centuries earlier than what we thought the Dead Sea Scrolls even were. And here's where things really twist. This hidden writing doesn't repeat what we already know. It doesn't echo Moses. In fact, some of these texts hint at a pre-Torah tradition, a shadow scripture that seems to predate the known foundation of Judaism. We're talking prophetic commentary, unknown rituals, even philosophical fragments that don't exist anywhere else on record. Dr. Lawrence Schiffman from NYU said it best. The scrolls aren't just time capsules, they're time machines layered within themselves. But the scrolls weren't done talking. Because after mapping the known visible texts, quantum AI flagged something no linguist ever could: clusters of symbols behaving like error correction code. That's right, built-in redundancies, pattern loops, checksum logic, 2,000 years before digital encryption even had a name. It's like the scribes embedded QR code logic into the parchment, not for decoration, for preservation. According to Dr. Sarah Miller, a computational linguist on the team, they weren't just preserving meaning, they were preserving structure, like how digital compression protects core data. This was communication engineered to survive time. But then came the curveball no one expected: human DNA, right there in the parchment fibers, sweat, saliva, organic binder residue. And when they ran full genome sequencing, connections popped. Scrolls written decades apart had shared DNA, and not just random matches, familial markers. The same priestly lineage, a Qumran bloodline, scribes carrying sacred code across generations. But here's the part that shook even the skeptics. One specific DNA sequence matched samples recovered from an ancient gravesite, linked to the teacher of righteousness, the shadowy spiritual figure mentioned all throughout the scrolls. Could this be the first biological link to someone actually named in biblical-era writing? Even if that was the final reveal, it would have been enough. But then came the geometry. Quantum AI mapped the spacing, the layout, the structure of the scrolls, not the words, but how the words were shaped. What it found wasn't random. It found symmetry, golden ratios, fractal alignments, Fibonacci spirals baked into the physical arrangement of the scrolls. Entire verses coiled back on themselves. Some created recursive loops when visualized. Others mirrored sacred geometry principles that weren't formalized until modern physics. It's almost like they understood that math, meaning, and mystery were one language, and they encoded it on purpose. So if you think this is just dusty parchment and religious metaphor, think again, because what comes next doesn't just challenge history, it rewrites what Scripture even is. Before we continue, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Trust me, you'll want to stay for this next part. Maps to the past and messages for the future. Just when you thought ancient scrolls couldn't possibly get more advanced, one line changed everything. A short phrase, almost poetic, caught the eye of the AI. The stone that hides the moon at dusk. Now, most translators would have written it off as symbolic, maybe apocalyptic. But this wasn't traditional translation. This was quantum AI. So the team did something no scholar ever attempted. They ran lunar alignment simulations based on the phrase. And what they found, during specific equinox dates, moonlight hit a section of the Qumran cliffs in just the right way. The shadows aligned perfectly, with a collapsed rock formation no one had ever explored. Suddenly, this poetic phrase wasn't metaphor. It was a map. If confirmed, it would mark the first time in human history that a 2,000-year-old document pointed to the exact location of a hidden chamber. The chamber, still sealed behind layers of debris, could hold untouched scrolls, writings shielded from time, light, and interpretation. And what's even crazier, some scholars now believe this might not be a one-off. The scrolls themselves may be interactive, designed to guide you piece by piece to their next chapter. But the discoveries didn't stop in the cliffs. The AI, now fine-tuned to pick up symbolic language structures, flagged something else. Linguistic echoes, patterns that didn't just feel familiar. They were mathematically overlapping with ancient Sumerian inscriptions and even fragments from Zoroastrian texts found in modern-day Iran. So now scholars are asking, were the Qumran scribes part of a pan-Eurasian symbolic network, a kind of spiritual blockchain passed down through Persia, Babylon, Judea, and beyond? It's not a conspiracy, it's a pattern. And it gets deeper. One scroll, barely 200 words long, refused to translate properly, until the AI ran it through a quantum semantic recursion model. And boom, it unlocked over 1,000 connected theological ideas, not as a narrative, but as a mnemonic tree, a data packet for the brain, compressed spiritual memory designed to trigger oral traditions, meditation sequences, and ritual recall. These scribes weren't trying to write everything down. They were creating verbal zip files, short-form data meant to expand inside the mind of a trained initiate, a whole system of compressed oral theology preserved through symbology and recursion, what today's engineers might call mental blockchain. So now we're looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls not as archives, but as living programs. And the Qumran sect? They weren't just a breakaway religious group, they were spiritual coders, people who encoded knowledge for a future they believed would come. A civilization smart enough and spiritually mature enough to finally unlock what they buried in plain sight. And now, that future is us. A hidden apocalypse. So after sacred geometry and linguistic echoes, the scrolls take a turn, a sharp one. It starts in Cave 11, with a single fragment known as 11Q Melch. Scholars cracked it open expecting priestly commentary. What they found? A shockwave. This wasn't Melchizedek the way Genesis tells it. This version, he's not just a priest blessing Abraham, he's narrating in the first person. He calls himself Elohim, a name normally reserved for God. And he's not here to preach, he's here to judge. This Melchizedek is cosmic. He talks Jubilee years, spiritual redemption, and the downfall of Belial, the ancient personification of evil. He moves like a divine warrior. Think Archangel Michael meets Messianic judge. But this was centuries before the book of Revelation even existed. The text is raw. Director. Almost like Melchizedek stepping out of scripture and into mythology. And not just any mythology, one filled with battle, prophecy, and spiritual war. Here's where it twists again. Some passages hint at influences way outside traditional Jewish theology. There are traces of Gnostic wisdom, whispers of feminine divine presence, and ritual concepts not found in Torah at all. It's like Qumran's scribes took familiar pieces and remixed them into a kind of underground theology, and it didn't stop there. Later Jewish writings, rabbinic texts, Philo's Logos theory, mystical Kabbalah, all show fingerprints from this scroll. Melchizedek starts blurring into other figures, Shem, Michael, the Logos, even the Son of Man from Enoch and Daniel. He becomes an archetype, a cosmic placeholder for divine power, and depending on who's reading, he's either a messianic liberator or something much stranger. But here's the part that cracked open a bigger debate. Where's the apocalypse? Because this version isn't about dual forces clashing in chaos. It centers on one divine figure, not two armies, not sons of light and darkness, which raised serious questions. Was the Qumran community unified in their beliefs or divided? Was this scroll a breakaway prophecy, a theological rebellion in ink? Whatever it was, it changed everything. And just when you think that's the peak, the very next scroll from the Dead Scroll kicks open the door to full-on spiritual warfare. A war between sons of light and darkness. So right after Melchizedek steps up as a one-man apocalypse, the next scroll flips that idea on its head and drafts an entire army. It's called the War Scroll, and it doesn't whisper, it roars. Found in Cave 1, echoed again in Cave 4, this scroll lays out a war plan, down to the day. Not just a prophecy, not just a metaphor. It reads like a military field manual. This is the war of the sons of light against the sons of darkness. It describes a 40-year conflict, broken into phases. The first 33 years, guerrilla warfare. The last 7, all-out battle against the Kittim, a shadowy coalition that might have included everyone from Edom and Moab to Greeks or Romans. And the scroll doesn't deal in generalities. It gives marching orders. It tells fighters how to polish their bronze shields. It lays out trumpet signals, banner colors, even the age ranges of the troops. It's not poetic, it's tactical. Military breakdowns fused with apocalyptic belief. But here's where it levels up. These battles, not just human, because alongside the sons of light are angels, celestial warriors standing shoulder to shoulder with mortals. Meanwhile, dark angels rally with Belial, turning the battlefield into something out of cosmic mythology. And the victory? It isn't earned, it's delivered by divine intervention. So while the scroll is dripping with battle plans, it's also pulsing with theology. It turns war into ritual, combat into prophecy. Some scholars think this scroll directly inspired parts of the Christian book of Revelation, especially the parts with trumpets, cosmic armies, and final showdowns. Others say it reflects real-time fear during the Roman era or even earlier Maccabean resistance. But no matter the source, the shrine of the book in Jerusalem, where the scrolls are housed, was literally designed around it. The museum's dome symbolizes the sons of light, while its black wall represents the sons of darkness, architecture mimicking scripture. And here's a detail most people miss. This scroll mentions multiple messiahs, not just one. A messiah of Aaron, a messiah of Israel. That alone challenges everything we think we know about messianic expectation. So now you've got a war, angels in formation, ritual combat, and a messiah tag team. But the biggest question? Was any of this real? Did the Qumran community actually train for battle? Or was it all symbolic? The scroll never answers, but it leaves one thing clear. They weren't waiting for the end of days. They were preparing for it. Missing Bible verses and extra ones. After divine battles and cosmic war plans, you'd think the scrolls might cool down. But no, they go straight for the Bible itself. And they don't just quote it, they change it. Because scattered throughout the Dead Sea Scrolls are early versions of texts we thought were fixed. Isaiah, Psalms, Genesis, and more. Except here, they show up with unexpected twists. Verses added, words removed, meanings shifted. Take Psalm 145. In most modern Bibles, the verse that should start with the Hebrew letter Nun is just missing, gone. But the Qumran scroll restores it, adds it right back in. The Lord is faithful in all His words. Just that one line realigns the entire acrostic pattern. It's small, but for ancient poets and worshipers, that rhythm mattered. Then there's the great Isaiah scroll, almost 1,000 years older than any previous copy we had. And it's full of differences. Some are gentle, word swaps, tone changes, but others are sharp. Where one version says captives will go free, the scroll changes it to the captives of battle will return. That's not about peace, that's about victory. And across Genesis, Exodus, Deuteronomy, there are versions that drop entire elements. One Genesis scroll doesn't even mention Behemoth or Leviathan. Another adds bonus prayers and refrains that never made it into any official Bible. So what does that mean? It means the Bible we know wasn't always locked in place. These ancient communities were still experimenting, tuning the message, layering their texts with commentary, liturgy, or straight-up revision. Some scrolls even combine prophetic writing with psalms, like a hybrid devotional/teaching scroll. It's less like reading scripture and more like stepping into a theological workshop. And here's the twist most people miss. They weren't trying to finalize the Bible. They were treating it like a living conversation, a sacred draft, still open to interpretation, adding verses to emphasize compassion, cutting others to stress judgment, rebalancing divine justice like an editor shaping a story. So when people today talk about the Bible as if it dropped from the sky fully formed, the scrolls say otherwise. They reveal that Scripture, back then, was fluid, alive, built through debate, ritual, and response to the times. And in some ways, it still is. But now, from edits in the text, we turn to something even more surprising. An ancient scroll that reads less like Scripture and more like a treasure map. A copper scroll that lists hidden treasure. After rewritten Scripture and shifting theology, the next scroll feels like a total curveball, because this one, it's not written on parchment, and it's definitely not subtle. It's hammered into metal, specifically a rolled-up sheet of copper alloy. Two sheets actually, riveted together to form what's now known as the Copper Scroll. And inside, a treasure list. No parables, no metaphors, just line after line, 63 entries in total, detailing the locations of gold, silver, temple artifacts, and tithing jars hidden across the Judean wilderness. One entry mentions 900 talents of silver buried beneath brick tiles in the valley of Achor. That's over 30 tons of silver, roughly 868,000 troy ounces, in one spot. Multiply that by the other items, and you're talking about a haul worth hundreds of millions today. But here's the thing, none of it has ever been found. Archaeologists tried, explorers followed the clues, but every excavation came up dry. So now, theories are flying. Some scholars think the treasure was real, but looted by the Romans during the Jewish-Roman Wars. Others say it was moved to protect it from invasion, and some? They don't believe the treasure ever existed at all. They say the Copper Scroll might be symbolic, not a map, but a ritual list, or a coded inventory of temple wealth, meant to survive conquest, not guide recovery. One expert, Joni Taylor, believes the scroll documents items hidden near Jericho during the First Revolt, or even the Bar Kokhba uprising, a kind of last-ditch effort to protect sacred objects from destruction. And here's a strange twist. Some of the entries include Greek letters, mixed right into the Hebrew. That's rare. Unusual for a document tied to temple culture. It almost feels like a cipher or a mix of traditions. Even how it was found is wild. Unlike the others, the Copper Scroll wasn't discovered by Bedouins. It was unearthed by archaeologists in March 1952 inside Cave 3. It was so badly corroded it had to be cut into strips in Manchester just to be read. And it's still being debated today. Is it real treasure? A symbolic test? An encrypted spiritual message? No one knows. But one thing's clear, the Copper Scroll doesn't behave like anything else found at Qumran. It's trying to hide something, and that mystery, still unsolved. Angels, giants, and forbidden knowledge. So after war scrolls, sacred edits, and treasure maps carved in copper, things go full mythological. Welcome to the Book of Giants, an Aramaic fragment found at Qumran that blows open two cryptic lines from Genesis chapter 6. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and their children were giants. Except in this version, those giants have names, emotions, dreams, even brothers. Meet Ohia and Hahia, two of the Nephilim, sons of the fallen angel Shemihaza, and they're not just big, they're tragic, haunted, wielding forbidden knowledge, tapping into visions, sorcery, even cannibalism. They rule over humans until the prophet Enoch shows up. That's when things flip. The giants start having dreams, apocalyptic ones, portents of doom, and in a desperate move, they send one of their own, Mahaway, on a journey to find Enoch, who now lives among the heavens, all while the universe unravels beneath them. But this isn't just fantasy. This scroll connects to bigger traditions. It echoes Mesopotamian epics like Gilgamesh and Humbaba. It feeds into later Persian Manichaean writings. It even intersects with early Jewish apocalyptic literature like First Enoch and Jubilees. It's like ancient fan fiction, except the fan is a mystic scribe, and the fiction carries divine warning. And what's the message? That divine knowledge given to the wrong beings corrupts the world. That hybrid creatures, half angel, half human, unleashed something unspeakable, and that heaven's judgment was not slow, because soon after comes the flood. Some scholars believe these stories reflect deeper truths, that they're metaphors for ancient tech, lost wisdom, even a cautionary tale about the price of unlocking forbidden power. Others push further, arguing that the Book of Giants seeded our myths of monsters, witches, demons, and fallen angels, the DNA of modern horror already embedded in Second Temple theology. And here's the strangest line of all. In one fragment, the giants cry out, "We are dying, but not by blood." What does that mean? Some think it points to a spiritual collapse. Others believe it's a cryptic reference to ecological catastrophe, maybe the earliest version of an end time that isn't about war, but the planet breaking down. Either way, the scroll pulls no punches, and that's what makes the Dead Sea Scrolls so unique. So now the question is, were ancient scribes just preserving faith or programming the future? Could Scripture really hold maps, math, and memory all in one? And if this is just the beginning, what else is buried beneath the dust? Hit that subscribe button if you're ready to go deeper and tell me, do you think the scrolls were divine inspiration, lost technology, or something the world was never meant to unlock?